This video will have spoilers for a Minecraft movie, so if you haven't seen it yet, go and watch it! What are you doing? You disgust me! Sorry, that went a bit too far. Just go and watch it and then come back. So in the movie, there's a scene where a pink sheep is attacked by some zombies. And when I watched it, I got up out of my seat and I said, "This is not accurate to the game. I want my money back." Then the sheep screamed as it got killed, and I laughed. Silly sheep. Wait, did it die? But after the movie ended, I was walking home, and that thought returned. Mojang have failed us for too long. So let's do something about that. So this is my idea. So I'm going to make a data pack, and here's just a representation of how the data pack will work. All these images were just taken from the Minecraft wiki, and I've used a Minecraft movie images because, as we all can see, it's very clearly superior. Anyway, we have our pink sheep here, and it's just going along, minding its own business, but then a zombie appears. And again, this is just taken from the wiki. That's why some of it looks a little bit weird, like this being purple and stuff, but I wasn't going to go and do some massive edits to this or something like that. So what we want to happen is when a zombie here sees a sheep, it goes, "Oh, I'm hungry," and it moves towards it and goes, "Nom nom 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 nom." But currently, obviously we know from the game, it doesn't actually do that. It'll just probably just walk off, which is not good. So next we've got to think about how this is actually going to work. How are we going to get a zombie to be attracted to a sheep and then actually attack it? So what we could do is make them fall in love and then break the zombie's heart. But that'll probably take too long. So my idea is if we put a villager on top of the sheep, so it's riding the sheep, then the zombie will be attracted to the villager and it will move over, and then we do a little calculation to work out the distance between the sheep and the zombie, and if that's close enough, then the sheep will take some damage. But if the zombie is going for the villager, then it'll eventually kill the villager or turn it into a zombie villager, which isn't good. So what we're also going to have to do is make the villager invincible, so the zombie can attack the villager all it likes, but won't do anything. There is one more problem, which is having a zombie attack a villager on top of a sheep. It doesn't really look like it's attacking the sheep, which it obviously isn't what we want. So the final thing is that the villager will be invisible. So it will look like the zombie is going after the sheep. So let's go and have a look at this in game. So here we have a command which is to summon a sheep and to give it a passenger of a villager. So if I push this button, we have a villager on top of a sheep. And if I go and spawn a zombie, we'll see that the zombie goes after the villager. And if the villager was invisible in this case, it would look like the zombie was going after the sheep. Now you might have noticed a little bit of a problem with this villager, with this sheep villager, what did I call it? Which is the fact that it walks quite slowly. Go on, walk! Of course now it's not walking. Well, oh, there we go. And if I get something like let's say a barrel, and I put down a barrel over here, you'll see that it will walk towards the barrel, as it is doing right now. It will walk toward, if I put a barrel down over, you will see that it walks towards the barrel. If I put a bed down, if I put a bed down over here, you'll see that it'll walk towards the bed, there we go, and it'll assign the bed. Now that's because, like if a player is riding a horse, it's not the horse, or in this case the sheep, that has control, it's the player on top, or in this case the villager, that has control. So that's not really how a sheep acts, and also it won't, eat the ground, and also walks ridiculously slowly. So there's a lot of problems here. So what can we do to solve this? So I've changed the command a little bit, and what it now does is it still spawns a sheep, but then its first passenger is a pig, and it has a second passenger which is a villager. Now if I spawn it in here, what you'll see is I can put a bed down, and I did assign it, but it's not moving towards it, and it won't move towards beds, or it won't move towards workstations, that kind of thing. And if I hold wheat in my hand, it's not gonna do anything. But if I hold a carrot in my hand, we'll be able to see that the pig is actually in control. So over here I have a similar command, but it puts the villager on top, like as a stack, rather than it's on the same layer. So in this case, the villager is riding the pig and the pig's riding the sheep, instead of the villager and pig both riding the sheep. And in this case, the villager, you can see it's walking very slowly, will be in control. So the way that Minecraft deals with control is that it's the top layer, so in this case it's the villager because he is on top, and the first entity on the top layer. So in this situation, the pig is the first entity on the top layer, which is because they're both riding the sheep, so it takes control. So what we could do is we could have a sheep here, and then it would then follow wheat around and kind of behave like a sheep. But I'm not sure if this sheep will still be able to eat the ground, which, because it's being controlled by a sheep that's higher up, I'm not really sure how that would work. Also, if you got shears, you would be able to shear this. Even if we made this invisible, you could shear just the air and get some more wool. So a pink sheep would give you double wool if you shear up and down. Which is a little bit weird. Then I had a thought, which was, what happens if we put an armor stand on top of a sheep? Because armor stands, obviously, they can't move around in the world. They just stand there. So would the sheep just stand there? Well, it turns out that if the entity that's riding the sheep doesn't move around, then it goes back to the sheep. So then if we summon a sheep with a armor stand and villager riding it, with specifically the armor stand first, like we did with the sheep, because the armor stand doesn't have any AI, it just passes it down to the sheep. So this works. And also, I'll go and put some zombies over here. As you can see, well, they're going after that one. But yes, zombies still go after it. So this is what we're going to be using, and we're just going to make everything invisible, so you'll just be able to see the sheep. And the next stage is to make a villager invincible. So in Minecraft you do that by setting their invulnerable to 1, and I've also done the same thing with the armor stand, because without that a player could just break the armor stand and then the villager would take control again. Here we go, we've got one right here. There's an invincible villager, invincible armor stand. So if I go into survival mode, and then you can see that I can't punch either of them, but I can punch the sheep. And what we can also see is if I put down a zombie, please do not destroy my dreams. If I, put some zombies around it, maybe. Well, this is a bit of a problem. Seems like zombies don't go after invulnerable villagers. Well, I'm gonna have to find another solution to that. Also, this area might look a little bit brighter than it was before because of these sea lanterns. Because obviously light source is up here, then each block it gets dimmer and dimmer. It was making this look a little bit yellow. So I've gone and added the light block to this whole area. So now it looks nice and white. So what I've come up with is to give the villager resistance. So this is the same as what you could get from a beacon, but it's going to be really high, so the villager's going to take no damage at all. And also, it's not going to show particles. So the way to do that is to give the villager the effect of resistance. Give it the amplifier of 255, which is the highest amplifier I can give it, and a duration of -1, which makes it infinite, and then set show particles to 0. Then we won't be able to see that the villager's got resistance, but it will obviously still have it. Here's our villager, looks very normal. We can do all the tests, and we can see that the sheep comes to it. Now it will still show it's taking damage, but it won't have actually taken any damage. So we can spawn a zombie in here. The zombie will still be attracted to it, and the zombie will be able to attack it all it likes. Spawn a few more just so it's more obvious, but it'll never actually die. So I think that's what we're going to do. The armor stand is I still just used invulnerable, because obviously that doesn't change how any of this works, which is very nice, very simple. Also, I wanted to mention to make these commands, because they're getting quite complicated at the minute, and how to do all this stuff. I mean, I struggle with remembering the active effects, what to actually type in, or the names of everything. I've been using a website called MC Stacker. I'll leave a link to it in the description in case you're not aware of it, in which it's just got an interface, and then you go in and you say I want the resistance effect added to this villager, using just buttons and clicking drop down menus and stuff. So it's much easier, and it just generates the command. You just copy and paste that in. Oh, and also, I know I said I was going to make a data pack in this video, and I will be making a data pack, but I'm using command blocks here because I find it easier to use command blocks first in the game, so I don't have to keep switching between windows, and then I'll copy these commands into the data pack once they're done. It's also because there probably is a better way of doing it, but with a command block it shows you the errors. So if I put summon sheep and I put too many peas, it'll tell me that I made a mistake there, right, and where the mistake is, so it's much easier to catch errors. But I use Notepad to write data packs. There's probably a better way to do it. I just haven't looked into it, but that doesn't tell me where the errors are, so I found command blocks really helpful. So the next thing I think is it's not silent. Obviously it's not invisible yet. I think just just for testing, let's keep it not being invisible, so we can actually see what's going on. But if I spawn a zombie, obviously the villager's making noise. Like, we don't want when the sheep's being attacked by the zombie it to make villager noises, so we need to do something about that. So what we can do is quite simple. So what I've got here is a spawn silent resistance sheep stand illager, which all it does is it adds, it sets the villagers silent to 1B, and that means it will make no noise. So we can punch it all we like, we can get a zombie to attack it, and it'll say nothing. Now at this point the data pack's really coming together. There's not really that much more that we need to do. One thing is though that the sheep doesn't take any damage. It's a very safe sheep at the minute, but we want to change that, don't we? Yes, viewers. We want the sheep to suffer. So, how do we do that? Well, Minecraft has a damage command, which is quite evil. So if we set it so it damages a sheep, and then we set the limit to 1, because you can only damage one entity at a time. Because only one sheep in the world, it's just that pink sheep walking around. Limit 1 will just mean it will select all entities with a type sheep, and then select one from that list of all sheep entities. And obviously there's only one sheep, so it's just going to do that. Then we need a damage amount, so it's any number that we want. In this case I'm just going to set it to 0, so it's not actually going to deal any damage, but it'll look like it's dealing damage. And then if we do mob attack, there we go. That's where it got damage from. And you can see that because it was a mob attack, it's now panicking. There are certain damage sources where it doesn't actually cause the sheep to panic. In this case, we can run this command as many times as we like, and it'll constantly just get hurt, but not actually take any damage. We can obviously set that to a certain amount, let's say to 10, and it will, deal that damage. And yeah, that's another one of our problems that we've got to solve. When the sheep dies, these guys don't die. Now this command is the most complicated command that we've done so far, but the thing I like about Minecraft commands is you kind of read them like a sentence. So you execute this command as a sheep that has the color of 6B, which is pink. You just have to know that. At S, which is the entity that's running the command, and we say we're executing it as the sheep, so this is at the sheep's location. If an entity zombie is closer than 1 block, that's what this means. Again, some of this stuff you just have to know. Run, damage, self, 1, mob attack, which is the same command as we saw before. So then if we turn this to always active and repeat, then that should be constantly running that command. Then if we summon the sheep, we have, the sheep, what did I call it? The silent resistant sheep stand illager. And we give a zombie, then the zombie will go towards the sheep and it will actually damage the sheep when it gets close to it. Instead of going with the amount of damage that a zombie does, I've just set it to 1 because I like the amount of time that the zombie takes to kill the sheep. I don't think it's too long, I don't think it's too short, I think it works. So the next thing that I want to add is that if the zombie, as we saw earlier, if the pink sheep dies, I want also the villager and armor stand to also die. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to have to give the villager and the armor stand some kind of what's called a tag. So if you think of like a tag in real life, you kind of put something on it so it can be identified in some way. So it's the same kind of thing. We're attaching something to it which you won't be able to see, in which we'll just have a name. So it'll be something like kill when off, let's say. And then we check for armor stands or villagers with that tag. And then we can also check if they're standing on the ground. So if they're riding a mob, as they do here, that counts as not on the ground. They're actually, they're flying in the air kind of thing. But once they come off the mob and they're no longer riding it, so the sheep has died, they will be on the ground and we can go and check for that. So we're executing as any entity with the tag kill when off if the entity has the data on ground. And we then run kill self. So in this situation this is not actually going to work because we are not yet summoning the villager and the armor stand with those tags. So we have to edit our command that summons them slightly. Okay, so here we go. We are going to spawn a silent tagged resistance sheep stand illager. And I know tagged has 2 G's, but it won't fit on the sign or there's no space, and so deal with it. It's fine. Anyway, so now if we get one of these guys, that'll mean that the armor stand, what I've added to the armor stand and the villager, is it has the tag kill when off. So this command's getting very complicated, and I've accidentally just swum in two, but whatever. So we get them in now, and the sheep, unfortunately, dies. The armor stand and the villager will also die with them, which is nice because we don't get a load of armor stands just in our world that we can't get rid of because we can't because they're invulnerable, and a load of invisible villagers running around, which would look really confusing because there'll just be zombies running around everywhere. Well, I think we've worked out enough here for me to go and develop the whole data pack. I probably won't include any more commands because they're getting a little bit complicated now, but if you want me to go more in-depth into how this data pack works and future data packs, then just go and leave it in the comments, and then I know that people are interested. But I'll come back when the data pack's done and we can do some testing. Okay, I know I said I was just about to go and make the data pack, but I found a problem which I didn't think about. So we now have this, which is a silent tagged resistance sheep stand illager, and the villager and armor stand are invisible. So as you can see, it just looks like a sheep. But if we go into spectator mode, we can see that there is a villager there and there is an armor stand there. So then if I spawn a zombie in, we'll see the zombie... Oh, what? Well, that wasn't supposed to happen, so let's do that one more time. So, okay, it seems like maybe the zombie can sometimes notice the villager, but zombies no longer notice villagers. And that's because, and this sounds really stupid, because obviously we're in a game, and like, these things can't actually see anything, they're just pixels on my screen, and just numbers inside of my computer. But, if something's invisible, they can't see it. And that works because if you as a player is invisible, you don't want mobs coming in and attacking you. You want them to not be able to see you, because that kind of makes sense. So, but that also happens with other mobs. So this doesn't work. So at this point, I went, oh no, this entire video, it is completely impossible. There is no way of me getting these zombies to target this villager, and I was getting pretty worried. But then I remembered something, which is that if you wear armor, mobs like zombies and skeletons can see you. So it's like they can actually see you, like a player can see you if you wear armor and you're invisible, because the armor still shows up, but the zombies can still do that. And then I thought, wait, armor doesn't show up on villagers. You can give villagers armor, and they can wear the armor, and they'll have the effects of armor, but it doesn't show up. So if we give a villager a full set of armor, in which, also we set the armor so it can't break, but if a villager has a full set of armor, then the zombies will go and attack the villager, even though it looks invisible to us. Okay, so now we have a silent tagged resistant sheep stand illager, and the villager and armor stand are invisible, and the villager has armor, and that looks like this, which looks the same. And if I spawn a zombie over here, we'll see that the zombie now goes after the sheep, and it all works beautifully. And so here is the finished data pack. So obviously what we were doing before when we were just testing was just spawning in pink sheep with all the villagers on, but now it actually detects if a sheep is pink, so it's constantly looking at all sheep and going, are you pink? Yes, you are pink. And as you saw, you see very briefly, a villager appears. And there's nothing I can do about that. The villager spawns in invisible, but for some reason appears very briefly whenever there's a pink sheep. So yeah, if there's a naturally spawning pink sheep, it'll also see that and it'll add it. Or if you just go and dye some sheep, it'll go and add that, and it'll go and remove the villager once you re-add them. That's what those particles are. So in spectator mode, you see this sheep doesn't have anything on it, but this sheep does, has a villager and an armor stand. So there are a few things that I've also added in. So when making things that people are going to use, what you can do is you can kind of either not expect them to do the impossible, or expect them to do the impossible. And if you're not expecting your users to do the impossible, they will definitely do the impossible. That's a fact. So I know that there's absolutely no way of a zombie turning one of these villagers into a zombie villager, but I have written code that makes sure that if there's a zombie villager here, it goes and replaces it with a villager. It also does the same thing for a witch, which it can do. If I can get a sheep and I dye it pink and then I strike it with lightning, a witch will spawn, but that witch will be removed and the sheep will die. It's probably seen like like a little puff of smoke that was the witch dying there. And I've also made it so if there is a sheep without an armor stand on it, which I have absolutely no idea how you would do, but like I say, users do the impossible. I think maybe if you're in creative mode, you might be able to punch it, maybe, and that might destroy it. I'm not really sure. But if for whatever reason somebody does do something and they remove the armor stand, so the villager takes control, it should go and put another armor stand on there so the sheep is back in control. Now, there is one more thing that I need to add to this. Like in the film, I mean, it acts mostly like the film, right? But there's one key difference. Well, there's one little difference, which is if I get a zombie, because there seems to be none nearby, and it's attacking the sheep. Let's get a few, like in the film. It just makes sheep noises. It doesn't scream. Right, okay, I'm ready to record. And now in my data packs, I have the screaming hurt sheep. And finally, the Minecraft movie is realistic to the game. Wait, is realistic the right word? Beautiful. Well, if you enjoyed this data pack and resource pack and you want to download it for yourself, there'll be a link in the description where you can go and do that. Now, the data pack will work without the resource pack, but obviously you won't have the sheep sounds. Now, unfortunately, for the resource pack, it's not only the pink sheep that scream when they get hurt, but it's any sheep and any damage taken. Now, that's because I did want it to just be pink sheep, but with a resource pack you can't specify the colour of sheep, it's just that you put in for sheep. And I did think I could do something where I made pink sheep silent and then made it play custom sounds, but then if someone just wanted to use the resource pack and wanted the normal sheep sounds, then all pink sheep would just make no sound. So I thought this solution works the best. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the data pack. Oh, that is the wrong colour. I hope you download the data pack, and I hope you have some fun listening to some pigs scream. That's not pigs, the sheep. And goodbye.